Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Fatback 4 for this Sunday evening. I'm Gav, and as you can see, I have Kev, Seany, and Keith with me. Chelsea 2, Liverpool 2. Yeah, that's right. Chelsea 2, Liverpool 2 from Stamford Bridge in the Premier League earlier on this afternoon. Me and Kev brought you an immediate match reaction where we just got people's immediate reaction, and a lot of people were upset. Let's just put it that way. And I'm listening. They've every right to be with the result today, as far as I'm concerned. But look, we've loads to get through tonight. We've lineups. We've 4 goals to talk about. How Liverpool lacked control in the game overall, in my opinion. But lads might disagree. The subs we made, man of the match, and then we'll have a little chat about around the January transfer window, the title itself, and what this squad needs or doesn't need. Looking forward to January or the summer, or what it needed in the past and you feel it wasn't done, because I've seen a lot of that today. Sean, I'm going to come to you first. It's a 2-2 draw. It's away at Chelsea. Both teams had issues with regards to who they could have on the pitch and who they could have on the sideline, in our case as well, with Jurgen Klopp being away from the game today. After the game, Shawnee, how are you feeling?
Gav, you're in the WhatsApps for me. You probably think I was on the wind up all day. I genuinely, after Leicester, kind of conceded a little bit that we won't be in the title race this year. And people might think that's ridiculous, and it's not an indictment on us. I just think with this Man City team, draws are losses, and it's flipped really quick. And I've kind of not in the sense where there's no fans. I've kind of just found myself looking at the Premier League the last couple of weeks, going, this doesn't make sense to me with how teams are having games called off, what games are going ahead, why these reasons are going ahead, and then I'm seeing reasons due to injuries and COVID, and then you have someone like Guardiola turning around yesterday saying, if one of my players has COVID, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to tell you if they have COVID or not. You're just not going to hear from me. So it sounds a little bit like sour grapes, but the integrity of the league is a little bit jaded for me at the moment, because how can you tell me that Man City get to play at home to a Leeds with 15 available players and beat them 7-0, but then the game can't go ahead against Liverpool? Like, it just, none of it makes sense to me. So I've been flat when it comes to the football over the Christmas for many reasons, which I might allude to later. But I just felt like today was kind of an indictment of our season. A Liverpool that lacked control and guile when needed to be. We go 2-0 up, we give away another lead, and to be honest with you, it doesn't look like to me that this team has the minerals to win the Premier League this season.
Okay. Keith, after the game, it's a 2-2 draw. Liverpool do throw away a 2-goal lead after being 2-0 up after 26 minutes. It's 2-2 at half time. How are you feeling after? Are you dejected? Are you going, it's one of those, it's a fair result? What way are you feeling?
Yeah, dejected, Gav. I mean, we're never happy after Liverpool drop points or don't win in any circumstances. And look, it's an away point that's at Chelsea, and Chelsea get a point at Liverpool, it's seen as a good result. We get a point at Chelsea, it's a good result, but you're 2-0 up in a game. But I think 2-0 was a false lead because we were never in control in the game. Do you know what I mean? It was really you take what you get, and Liverpool took their chances early on. But even at that, they weren't getting a foot on the ball, and we'll come on to individuals later on in the show. But I'm coming away from that. It's a rare game that I had no stomach for. I didn't care about the game because Shawnee touched on it there. The integrity of this league. It sounds sour grapes when you're essentially you've lost the league by New Year's. It sounds like sour grapes. But Shawnee's dead right. Games are getting called off for this, that, and the other. We're going today with, players missing, manager missing. Every team is going through it. But, at what point does this league... It's becoming a farce. Do you know what I mean? It's becoming a farce. And as Shawnee said there, Guardiola is more or less saying, look, we're not telling you if we have COVID cases, we're ploughing on. You see Leicester's lads out at the fucking darts, not want to judge players going out and celebrating and having their own life, but when your clubs are getting locked down for like COVID and you have boys going on a jolly up to the darts, it makes a mockery of why these games are getting called off. But the game was played, but at the start I didn't have the appetite for it. I actually thought we might have took a bit of a beating today. We went 2-0 up, conceded 2 goals, come back. I don't think Chelsea were great, to be honest. That's my take of it. I don't think Chelsea were great. We were woeful. Chelsea didn't do too much. So it was a game that I'll take the draw from it, but in the grand scheme of things, in the overall view of the league, it's no good for us. It's City are sitting back and, putting their feet up. And as Seany is saying, as Seany has said previously, it's a hard league to win when you've got a team like City in there, and they're only going to be the ones that lap up draws now between their title rivals. Just have to wait and see. By the way, City were shite yesterday as well, but they get the rub of the green. They're getting the rub of the green every week. We're not getting the rub of any green, but neither are other teams as well, because we've had another weekend of some shit refereeing decisions.
Kev, me and you spoke after the game. I think you were disappointed in what went on. I think you were disappointed in the performance, but not the result. Is that what you said?
Yeah, because if you look at the game over the 94 minutes, a draw was about as good as we could have got out of that. I was nervous going into the game. I saw the lineups, and I was not nervous as in I expect us to get beat. I just thought if we're going to win this, we're going to have to be really lucky in certain areas of the pitch, and a lot of things are going to have to go right. And I mean, I thought we were good in patches on the counter. We created some really good chances. We forced Mendy to make some really good saves, but at the same time, not once in that 94 minutes did we did, tell a lie. When Tuchel made a change in the second half, for about 10 minutes, we had control of the game. And then he realised his mistake and he changed it back and we lost it again. We never really looked like a side with a 3-man midfield against a side with a 2-man midfield. We just never once got a foot on the ball and decided, we're just going to take possession and we're going to boss the pace. Chelsea inflicted a game on us, and we hadn't the wherewithal to do anything about it.
We look at the lineups now. I'll get them up on screen for you. And for me, after the game, I'm upset. I have to say. I think on the balance of the game, I think you're probably looking and saying, you know what, on the balance of it, it's probably the right result. But without having control of the game, Liverpool are 2-0 up, and I expect Liverpool to go on and win that game. At 2-0 up. I don't care what control they have, to be honest. We'll get into why they had and why they hadn't, but at 2-0 up, Liverpool Football Club should be winning that game. They should be seen out till half time. They should be looking to target 60-65 minutes, make some changes and go on and win it. Okay? Maybe Chelsea get one back, but Liverpool should be looking to win that game. And it's a massive blow. Me and Kev were talking about it after the game. It's a massive blow to any hopes you have of winning the title, because you're 11 points off. You have a game in hand. You have to play City. At best, you get that down to 5 with 15 games to go. But then you're looking for City to make 2 more fuck-ups while you're nigh on perfect. And I think it's very, very difficult. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's very, very hard. Seany, we go on to the lineups. And or before we do, if you're watching, please hit the like button. If you're subscribed, great. If you're not, hit the subscribe button as well. Make sure your notifications are on, and every time we go live, you will be notified. Also, you can hit the share button as well on your YouTube, and you can share it to your social media or your WhatsApp groups or wherever it might be. Hit the like and hit the share if you can. But Seany, Kev touched on it there, the lineup, and we were a bit snookered, weren't we? Simicast is in because Robertson is suspended. Van Dijk is there. Matip is out with COVID, and so is Alisson. So you see Callagher and Kanate come in. Fabinho, Henderson, Milner midfield astonished me, and the front three are the front three. Kev said he was nervous, Seany. Is that where your nerves came from, looking at that midfield three? Because that's where my nerves came from.
Again, now, Gav, I would have been sort of similar to Keith, saying, I wouldn't had much of a stomach for this game before kick-off, to be honest with you. But when I seen the lineup, I was thinking, surely Keita's got to be in there ahead of Milner. That's what I thought. Because I actually think Keita has been very good in his cameo since coming back from the small injury that he had. But like you said, Gav, snookered due to injuries. And I think, if you look at like throughout this whole Christmas period when we've been missing players with COVID, we've always had like a decent enough spine, but the midfield has been chopped and changed every game, and it's just absolutely killed us because I think between the time we got on a run from the start of the season up until the Christmas period, we started to really look good when we seen that midfield three of Hendo, Thiago, and Fabinho was perfectly balanced, and that seems to be all knocked off again. And like that was like a League Two game today. Everyone's going on about the quality today. I don't know. There was loads of goals and all. There wasn't much quality. I thought Kovacic was very good, but I think if you look at air midfielders, they're hacking at the ball for 90 minutes. Like, you know what I mean? It's never under control. It just seems like they were playing heads and mollies in the middle of the park. I don't know what the story. I've never seen any of our midfield players actually getting the ball down. They just seem to be hooking at everything, and that will start to show when you're forced to make these changes, Gav. When you think about it, like, it's only really like you wouldn't say Alisson was a big miss today because I actually thought Kelleher was okay.
Good,
yeah, I thought he was good.
Good.
And Simicast has proved to be a brilliant deputy, but it's just in that midfield. Henderson has been shocking of late. He's been very, very poor of late.
Can I ask you something? I know, and I know we'll talk about it, but can I ask you something, Shawnee? Because it's just come into my head, so I'll ask you. You saying that they don't get it under control, and it looked to me like every time Milner got it, and Milner and Henderson got it, everything seemed to be like, let's get it forward. Do you think was it a case of them just not playing it right and not being in control, or was it a case of them trying to make it that frantic sort of game and looking at Chelsea? And this isn't an excuse, by the way. Is it a case of let's make it frantic and 100 mile an hour and see if they can keep up the pace?
Because I don't think it was because
I expected us to get it down, Shawnee. I expected us to get it down and play, and make them chase it. But
they're well on top, and I tell you what, Havertz coming in deep and Kante and Kovacic walking like two dogs really forced us to have to rush it. I thought they were both brilliant today. Kante is always brilliant against us. He's one of the best players to ever do in that position, and I thought Kovacic, and they really made it difficult for us today. I don't know what the story was. We just did not look comfortable at all, and even Virgil was sloppy, looked uncomfortable. I thought Kanate stood out of the two there. It was just, and look, that can happen at Stamford Bridge. It's a tough place to go. It's a tough place to go when you've all your players. You know what I mean? It's mad we went 2-0 up in that game because both goals were against the run of play. You know what I mean? And we have that in us to counter because we're so good, but so many players let us down. Do you know what, Gav? I think it's starting to show now. It really is. And I'm not going to say the lack of investment, but the stale elements of this squad now that are really starting to show now. Like, I don't want to hear about his numbers, but we can no longer consider it form. Like, Mane is just, he's not doing it for me anymore. I don't care about goals and assists, to be honest with you, because I reckon you could put any half-decent player in there in this side with the chances we create and they get goals and assists. His all-round game is very poor. There's so many tacks breaking down with him. He's taken 2 or 3 touches to get it under control. It's just, and this has been Mane now for 18 months.
Shawnee, do you know what it's reminding me of? Sorry for cutting across you there, and I'm not comparing the two players here, but he's reminding me more and more of Benteke now. Benteke's goal return when he was with us for a year, when you look back at numbers, wasn't bad, but he done nothing in the games. And Mane is starting to get to that point for me as well now. Look, I don't want to see that. None of us want to see that, but
I'm not putting these fellas on the chop block, but I think he should be moved into a role where he's probably coming off the bench in games and starting the odd game here because he's starting to look busted. Yeah. He genuinely, and I don't think this is knee-jerk. When you look over the time, everyone turned around. He was scoring at a decent rate at the start of the season.
7 and 12.
7 and 12 is not a bad return gap, but you need to realise if you put someone in there of apt quality, they're going to have that sort of return because we create so many chances. This team creates so many chances, and anybody with half-decent ability is going to do that. Mane is declining, and it's declining where it's detrimental to us. The amount of tacks that break down with him, and it's so frustrating because it's the same thing where he's running into fullbacks and he's not getting his head up. And look, he owes us absolutely nothing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying put this fella out the pasture, but I do definitely think that his position in the squad needs to be looked at. Not in this window, because I don't think Liverpool, we don't operate like that. We've known that, but if it's not something that's done in the summer, then I don't know, because he's another one whose contract is running down, and it's no surprise that nobody's really talking about it, because if he was to go for free at the end of it, you kind of think, look, we've actually gotten the best out of him. You know what I mean? And I think that's the way we used to look at it. Mane was such a on-the-edge player, instinctive. Like, look at the goal he gets today. It's instinctive, but his all-round play is just, it's not going to cut it for us, Gav. I really think now it's time for him to be moved, to phased, not phased out, but just given a new position in this squad. Yeah, upgraded on would be the one. And I'm not saying going out and spend fucking 60, 70 million. I'd back Klopp to turn any good player into very good player, and any very good player into a world-class player. Yeah. Exactly, a la Jota. So it's starting to really now. It's past the point now where it's going. It might come back to him where you're thinking this is probably him now, because it's been like this now for 18 months.
Well, you're very bold, because I told you not to talk about any of this till the end. But you're very bold. But I know where you're coming from, and we're definitely going to get on to that later on, I promise.
Well, in fairness, Gav, it's hard to avoid Mane when after about 10 seconds.
Well, that was my next question. Look, are you taking the piss? Mane made an impact today, but we need to sign players that can challenge Mane and Salah, and that's what we want to talk about a little bit later. And it's not a knee-jerk thing that we're doing. Yeah. What we're doing is we're having a conversation, because people in the chat after the game, and in this chat now as well, ask these questions, and we like to talk about what you are interested in rather than just dismissing it and saying we're talking about this. But Keith, yeah, go on, Shawnee.
I'll take the Keith. No, let Keith go on. Okay.
No, go
on.
It's a red card.
Yeah.
If it's a half an hour into the game, it's a red card.
I don't think it is, to be honest.
Okay. Well, I was gonna ask you that Gary Mac. It's Gary McKay. He says Mane declining by Hendo isn't. Come on, lads. No. We didn't mention Henderson. That will come in a bit.
Gary will mention Henderson.
Yeah. Gary, you mentioned that. But we will talk about Henderson. We will talk about many players later on when we're talking about this. But Keith, is he lucky to stay on the pitch after?
I think he is lucky to stay on. I don't think it's a red card myself personally. I think he looks at him, and I think he puts his arm out, but I don't think he gives him the sharp elbow. That's the only thing. I don't think he really gives him the elbow. I think he puts his arm out, has a look, and that's it. It's a stupid thing to do, because you're giving the referees a decision then, or the VAR an opportunity to do something. Now, I think he's lucky in the sense, and we had this with Henderson at West Ham, when he got creamed by Creswell, and we said at the time, he's not getting sent off because it's too early in the game. Well, it should never be too early in the game, and that stands for whether it's 16 seconds in, it's not too early. I just don't think.
Just reckons if it's 10 minutes into the game, he gets a red. That's what he reckons.
I don't know. I don't. I just think there's no intentional sort of smash with the elbow or the forearm. I think he's feeling. I think he does look at him, and I don't think it's as innocent. I think a yellow is fair. I think a red, I wouldn't have been surprised.
If there was an orange card in football, he'd have had it. Look,
yeah,
it was.
I
said this earlier, and after watching it back a couple of times since, it was about as borderline as you're ever going to get. If he'd have been sent off, I wouldn't argue it, because it was stupid. The ball was nowhere near. The ball was going dead, and he was laying down a marker, and it was stupid. It was cowardly, because yourself. Anyone who's played football, when you're going jumping for the ball, your arms are going up. His arm didn't go up. His arms went about that high. The only saving grace is that he didn't do that. He went like that. That action probably saved it. But if he was sent off, wouldn't argue it.
Okay,
I'm surprised he got away with it, because it's not his first rodeo either. He's done it a couple of times.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know whether it's all the talk around him during the week, because he's got a lot of press during the week with regards to his form and stuff like that. I don't know whether he just had all that energy in him, but he just went the wrong way around. I think he is lucky to stay on the pitch, and I don't go in for this argument if it was 10 minutes later. I don't care. If a fella tips the ball off and passes it back to his midfielder and you smash into him, you can't get away from it because it's 5 seconds into a game. It's just, you don't referee like that. You don't.
But they do. But they
No,
do.
they do, but they
Human
shouldn't.
instinct.
You don't referee the occasion. You referee what is going on, what's happening.
Yeah, the time stamp of a game shouldn't really dictate
Absolutely.
whether the rules
Absolutely.
apply or not. But yeah, just Gav, it's not that some sort of grand conspiracy. If he does that, he ruins one of the bigger Premier League games of the season after 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's taken into account. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
they will know that.
I know that. I think it's a red card. I think he is lucky,
I think so too.
and I think
he's
the
lucky.
timing, it helps him. Ronaldinho Goat says could have been 4v1 if not for Ox, shocking player. I don't know where you're going with that, but
Yeah, he breaks at the end of the game.
yes. I thought he meant 4-1 when I read that. And Sean Swain says Cesar Azpilicueta has a smug face, fair challenge. Okay, but no, I think he is a bit lucky, and you know, it goes on, and Kev, like, we make it 1-0. You know, it's a mistake by Chelsea, but Mane gets onto it, and somebody that looks out of form, somebody that's kind of got a little bit of stick over the last little while, takes it brilliantly. Because for me, when it drops to him, when he gets it there, most players would look to put it to Mendy's left hand side, you know, try do him at that side, but he doesn't. He takes his time, goes past him, sticks it in the net, and I was fucking delighted, Kev. I was like, I haven't really started here, but we're 1-0 up.
After the Leicester game as well, I was more happy for him than anyone else. The thing is, I suppose he knows Mendy from international football, so he knows what he can and can't. And you saw that late in the game when he had that chance in the second half. But the way he took it, and he took it in on his left foot and slotted it away. It was a really good touch in the box to take it away from I think it was Rudiger, I think it might have been Rudiger trying to get out of him. But he took it away and he smashed it in. It was a really good finish, especially considering that they had just missed a really good chance. Kelleher made an excellent save down at the feet. I think it was Pulisic. Trent was forced into an error to clear a ball on his left foot. Chelsea got a block on it. Ball came across. Kelleher dived at the feet of Pulisic and nicked the ball away. And it was only a couple of minutes later that we went out the other end and scored. And I thought, this is completely against the run of play, but we're 1-0 up. Thank fuck for this. You know, I was delighted because we were in no way in the game. No way in the game whatsoever. And the amount of times that we have that done to us, to do that to them was, here we go now. Now we might try to, put our foot in the bowl. Little did we know.
It's Jono says, according to our fans, everyone is a shocking player when we don't win. When we do win, this is the greatest LFC team ever. Welcome to modern day football fans. I agree with you a little bit, to be honest with you. But I think
there is a bit of that.
I think what I try to do is I try to look at a game on game, and then you do have to look at form. You know, and Mane started the season for me quite well. If that's what you're talking about, Jono, with Mane for me started the season quite well. He's 1 or 2 okay games. He's some really good games. He's 7 and 12, but then he goes about 8 or 9 without a goal, doesn't he? And he scores there today. And I want to leave it a little bit to later because I think there's more to it than the former players. I think it's what's at our disposal. I think affects what we have at our disposal. You know what forwards we have at our disposal and their availability and quality, I think affects us massively when we have to rely on certain players to just keep playing and playing and playing. But we'll get to it in a bit. Keith, I'll come to you because we're 1-0 up. And the control thing is where it comes in. And I want to talk about this around not being in control of the game and then going 2-0 up. Because we're never in control, Keith. And me and Kev were talking earlier about it. When I seen that midfield, I thought we're not going to be a pressing machine because they don't have the legs, right? And maybe we'll sit and maybe we'll entice them on and try hit them on the break. And Henderson's a decent passer of the ball to get the front three going. Milner will work hard. Fabinho breaks stuff up really well and then can find players and do it that way. But Keith, all through the game, we didn't show any control. Shawnee touched on it earlier. Every time they got it, they were hooking it away, playing lofted balls. Henderson was criminal at it. Like, criminal. Like, he just kept getting it, and these loopy balls to fucking know. Here I was, what the fuck is this fella on today? And he's been poor over the last while, for me, Henderson. He's had an illness, but at the same time, if you're in the team, you're in the team. You know, the sort of way. But we didn't show any control, Keith. We didn't look like we had a clear plan whether to press hard and pen them and then use our high line to an effect, or sit in deep and drop a little bit deeper with that line and set out a stall that way. We didn't do any of that, Keith, and then we go 2-0 up, and Chelsea look ragged when we get the second, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird game because we do go 2-0 up, and the goals are just coming. You know, Chelsea are on top, because Kev touched on there. You've got Callagher making a brilliant interception then on Pulisic. We go up, we score. Trevor Chalobah makes a bollocks. Might as well have been Trevor Jordash heading the ball for all that use that he was. And then, after we go 1-0 up, right? We don't take that. We don't take the bull by the horns or not. We just sit back and we're passive again, and then bang, we get another one. The quality in the midfield today, I think, was terrible. I think Milner was the worst of the three. I think Fabinho was absolutely pissed as well today, if I'm being honest. But I think there was so many of them are bad. I think Trent was awful. I think the forwards were all awful. 2 of them get goals. You know, it's just one of them days. You know, the control in the game, Henderson was frustrating because I think we expect it from our right-hand side that we can make things happen down there. And the link-up, people will complain about Henderson. Henderson gets loads of stick, and they'll say that we never criticise Henderson. We do. I think he's being poor. I certainly think he's being poor. I think, you know, with Milner, you're 36 or whatever you are, but you're 36. Thiago Silva is probably 36 as well. And, you know, Milner is like 36 in dog years. He's 100 and something, because the mileage that he has on his legs, even though he hasn't played that many games, like until he came to us, the type of player he is, it's starting to show on him a bit. And anytime I see him in the lineup now, I'm never confident. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what the point of Milner is at this stage now. I like him. I think he's a great servant that we've had, but he worries me when he's in there. And when Henderson isn't at it, you've no pressing. Do you know? I would have played Naby today, 100%. I would have played Naby ahead of either of them, because I think the 2 of them play against Leicester, Milner and Henderson.
Milner comes on.
Milner comes on, yeah.
Well, they just,
Henderson
you know
plays.
what you're not going to get out of them, is what I'm long-windedly trying to say. You know what you're not going to get out of them. What you get out of Henderson is the incisive through balls. You know, the link up with Trent and Salah on the right-hand side, and the overlapping runs and the delivery in. That's gone the last while. That's not been there. So, you know, it's hard to try and save Henderson from any criticism, because you can't. He was awful. You need a midfield to have control, right? You need it. Shawnee touched on this. We'd found that balance, and Henderson was in the balanced midfield. You know, it was Henderson, Fabinho, and Thiago, and it looked good. And you're saying to yourself, right, you could bring Naby in there maybe, and 1 in, 1 out, and you're not too bad. But then you start losing. We saw this last year. You lose players, the knock-on effect onto others just drags them down, and they just shells of themselves at the moment. Whether they're playing, well, I don't know, whether Henderson's playing through illness, he looks fucking dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. So I'm not going to try and cover it up.
One thing that you normally get, though, with when we're playing Chelsea is Firmino plays. And Firmino, Bobby adds that fourth person who drops into midfield and creates a real overload. And he never really plays a proper number 9, so he'll leave the 3 centre backs to mark 2 forwards, and he'll come back and usually would sit on Jorginho, but Jorginho never started, so it was almost as if Chelsea said to Kante and Kovacic, look, here, we'll support you. You get the game wide. You boss the 2 in the middle. They're not going to run past you. They don't have the legs to get after you, but you can turn them. And that's what happened. You got to give credit to Chelsea, the way they managed that first half. As bad as how we managed the game in the first half, in patches, they were very, very good at what they were trying to do. And compared to how they were in their last game, where they looked leggy, they looked lethargic, Kante came on for half an hour. But other
that's
than
what I'm
that,
saying. Can I ask you then, Kev? And Ronaldinho goes says that we need a midfield overhaul. Milner, Ox, out, Henderson on the bench. And again, we touch on some of that later. But can I ask you that, Kev? They look out on their feet when they play Brighton, right? Kante comes on for half an hour, right? Does that give them a boost when they see what midfield we're putting out? Instead of even
Kante
saying,
started, didn't he?
No, against
no,
Brighton.
he can't. Not against Brighton.
Today.
He came on
Today.
Yeah.
But he comes on. He comes on against Brighton. What I'm saying is, he looked out on the feet against Brighton. Kante does come on for the last half hour, doesn't he?
Yeah. But Chelsea attacked that game today with reckless abandonment because Alonso never once worried about what was going on behind him. He trusted Rudiger to look after Salah 1v1, whereas most sides who play that system, they don't do that. Their midfield 4 was a 4 straight across the pitch, and they trusted their back 3 to defend 3v3 if need be. And it was a different thing that we came up against today. And
but did we play into their hands, Kev? That's what I'm saying.
We didn't. We didn't. Yeah, we did.
You know,
because
if we'd have put and people would shout at me, for saying this, right? But if we'd have put a Keita in there instead of a Milner,
we said it.
Put an Oxen's there. What I'm saying is somebody that's a bit more mobile or a bit more incisive or can affect things that can get the other side of you.
Yeah.
Then Chelsea's 4 or the 2 in midfield and Kovacic and Kante would look and say, well, we can't really fucking go up against these because the likes of an Ox. Now, I'm not saying that they'd be brilliant in it, but Ox or Keita can get beyond you and, get the other side of you and then start, like you were saying, trust their back 3 to mark 3. It's much easier to do when you don't have a Liverpool midfield running at you. It's hard. It's very difficult to do when you have a fella breaking through midfield and going, right, I have the ball, there's 3 of you and there's 3 of my men, and they're going to make moves now and we're going to open you up. That's what I'm asking, Kev, is does that Liverpool midfield send out a signal to Chelsea today to actually go and do exactly what you said?
It tells you how we're going to play. We said here the other night, when we were on with Chris, and we gave our 1 to 11 and what we thought, and we all went for Naby in midfield because he can carry the ball and he can bring you 30 yards up the pitch. Now, at the time, you guys went for Matip, I went for Konate, but Naby offers you that ball retention that he can alleviate pressure just by taking it 30 yards further up. Milner and Henderson, that's not their game. There's no point in asking him to do it because they can't. All right? And they could have done 5 years ago, but they just can't do that now. By the midfield that we started with, we almost predicted how we were going to play. We were going to sit out.
But never done that.
But we never followed through on it. No, we didn't. We didn't. We were stuck between an either or. We didn't know. We didn't press. And we didn't drop off.
We should have dropped 10 yards and put a midfield in there and went, right, we're going to contain you now, right? And we're going to push into the middle of the park instead of letting you go wide. And we're going to make Jota come in and play as that extra man. And we never followed through. That's how we never got control.
Do you know what that reminded me of? Like the last couple of games that remind me of Klopp's 4th season in the Champions League was the approach we had to the big away games with the yard dogs in the middle. Remember the breaks in midfield that everyone talked about? Seany, Milner and Henderson. But the big difference was like that was 3 or 4 years ago, and the yard dogs had mileage in their legs.
Yeah.
They don't now. They don't now, and that's why we are so easily overrun today. It's the same against Leicester. So easily overrun. That was like a game of ping pong gap today. We had literally no control of that game. And at the same time, Chelsea not having much midfield control at all because they were just breaking and going down the line the whole time. It was like it was mad. It was like a game of basketball. But that's what that midfield reminded me of. That's like Klopp's 4th season. We were woeful away from home.
Yeah, but I was okay with Chelsea having the ball wide. I wasn't worried about them having the ball wide because they weren't crossing it to anyone.
Yeah,
when they were bringing it into the middle, and we had runners off the middle, and they had runners off the middle, and it's where their second goal came from.
And look,
that's where you get worried.
they get into it where they're playing a Perla from Kovacic. They weren't causing as much hassle other than that.
Before we get on to the Kovacic one, I want to talk to you, Shawnee, because the Salah goal is a really good goal. You know,
Yeah.
and I was saying earlier, if you watch it back, Salah plays a ball into the middle of the park, right? Not the middle of the park. He plays it inside, and the camera can't quite see him, right? But Trent just gets it and looks and just clips one 20 yards, and Salah's all of a sudden running. There's 3 Chelsea players over there, but simple ball over the back of them, and he's running straight at I think it's Chalobah he ends up running at, and he twists him inside out, and the keeper's not great, but Salah buries it. And again, we're not in massive control of the game, Shawnee, but when that goal scored, you see Rudiger hands on his knees, Azpilicueta sitting down in the box, and it looks like we've burst their bubble here. You know, they're big high tempo. They wanted to try to get something over. We're 2-0 up now, and it's 25 minutes old. And their body language to me, Shawnee, said, fuck, we haven't got much left in the tank here, and we're 2-0 down. We weren't in control, Shawnee, but it's still a great goal.
No, it's brilliant. It's Salah at his best, but I don't even agree with you. They didn't look, when we went 2-0 up, their approach didn't change.
What I meant was the body language when they score. You see his hands on his knees, a real kind of deflated look off Rudiger in particular. And I think it's Azpilicueta sitting down in the box.
On his knees, yeah.
And you're kind of going, that look, like, you know, like when you lose a goal near the end of a game and you see players falling to the ground like, oh, fuck this. You know, there's no way back. I kind of got that feel off them.
But especially we were no use. Do you know what I mean? We're after getting 2 goals there without doing that. Yeah. And Chelsea are doing that game, and they're like, how the fuck are we 2-0 down here? Do you know what I mean?
It's a bit of a rope-a-dope. And like Chelsea will be thinking, how the fuck are we 2-0 down here? But if you watch an awful lot of football, which I have this season, the amount of times I watched Chelsea at Stamford Bridge where they would have been getting battered by teams who couldn't finish. One example being Aston Villa. It was one of the most one-sided games I ever seen there, and they just nicked one. So they're probably thinking, oh, well, we're probably getting away with it most weeks here because we tend not to take control of the game. Because that Tuchel winning the Champions League, I think, is kind of at the hamstringing him a bit, because that negative approach that he came in and adapted got him a trophy, and I think he's reluctant to go away from that, and they've kind of stuck by that this year, and they were more positive than we were today, and they really had a go. And then you look at it, I think, 2-0 down. That's because they're not used to that sort of approach in those big games. And I think that's why we were 2-0 up, because it wasn't like we had to be overly brilliant. Now, the first goal is a bit of luck, but the second goal is Salah magic, don't get me wrong, but this is the killer. This is the killer. This is the characteristic of this Liverpool team this season that I absolutely hate, is that a lack of control and game management is fucking shocking. And it's been shocking in so many games. Brentford away, Spurs away, Brighton at home. I wouldn't even say West Ham, because we never really, we were never, like, Trent, we get back into that game with a Trent free kick. But games where we're leading and should be in control of, especially Brighton at home, and we're just not. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's an arrogance or I don't know. We just don't seem to have that hunger or killer instinct this season. Way too often. And like I said, draws are losses in this title race, and we've let way too many leads slip this season, and it's fucking infuriating. Now, not so much today, because you could kind of see it coming, to be honest with you. I could see this coming. I'm thinking, don't give anything stupid away here. And out of all the players, to do it, it's Milner who gives away the silly free kick. It's just stupid. It's not 1920 Liverpool. What we need to be if we want to win this league, just not savvy, no game management, not slowing the ball down. Like, we're 2-0 up, and the game is still 100 mile an hour. Why aren't we taking 20-30 seconds on a kick out, 20-30 seconds on a throw in? Why aren't we going down under why aren't we doing these things?
But Duster says
need to do.
Duster says the trust in this side to go 1-up and kill games has gone. I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah, but that went away last year when we'd no back four. But we have the boys there now to spine. Like, it just, like, Van Dijk infuriating.
10 clean sheets this season.
Gav, one thing you've been big on this season, and I've often not agreed with you, and I think this is why we work together on. And I've been kind of going, I think you're being a bit over being critical there. And I have to agree with you now, and I'll say over the last, every time you said it, I was wrong. The application sometimes is just not fucking there. It's not there. Like we're very. I heard Neville talking about it today. We're very high up the pitch, and Gary Neville is like, Thiago Silva has the run of the field here on the ball, like at Madrid away last year, and the amount of times they clip balls over and they just miscontrol it. Marcus Alonso, well, wide open, very susceptible to that diag. The same maybe were against Spurs. How are we not learning from these things? Why aren't we? We don't seem to be adjusting to our mistakes and our weaknesses as it goes on, because we've seen these flaws week in, week out. Brentford were the first team to really put us under pressure, under the high diagonal and feeding off second balls. We're not winning second balls. We're not dealing with the diagonals. They're far too up the pitch. There's nobody pulling games by the scruff of the neck. Our control of games has been shocking. Unless we're blowing teams out, we're making it really, really difficult for ourselves. There's been
but our control of games always comes from application and intensity. That's it.
Yeah.
And
it
that's
hasn't
why,
been there,
and that's why it's
too
gone
often.
exactly, and that's why it's gone. You know, and this is where I see some people. This is where I haven't agreed with people in the past, but I kind of get it now, especially when we look at this incarnation of the team. Right, our midfield was always functional, and the function of it was to drive the team. Right, and what I mean by that is I'm not saying they're driving forward and fucking shooting. I'm talking about driving every player around them to be that they're in the right position and they're doing the right things, and that makes everyone else do it. I mean, forwards, fullbacks, centre backs. Those three in midfield dictated as to how much we pressed, how intense we were, how we applied ourselves. Now, if you watch that today, you say something very interesting, right? Thiago Silva gets the ball and he's able to clip her out to Marcus
There's
Alonso.
no pressure on the ball, Gav. If
Exactly.
you're playing high, you've got to put pressure on the ball.
This is what I'm saying. You cannot play a high line in football without pressure on a football. It's a simple, because Thiago Silva can step forward 10 yards, look and go. And listen, Pulisic or whoever don't need to be playing right on your shoulder. They just have to make an outside to in run 5 yards off the back of you. And not only have they got the run on you, but the ball doesn't have to be even brilliant, because there's that much space to drop it into that you can be a yard or two off and it'll still be okay, right? But if you watch it today, the forwards aren't pressing what they're meant to press, right? But watch where the midfield is. They're not sitting back, and they're not forward either. They're just hanging around. There's no drive, there's no organisation, and that's where sometimes application can be. And I think Leicester is a case in point, where you turn up and you think they've listened, they've smelled themselves all week because they've listened to Leicester's problem and Brendan Rodgers giving out and whatever, right? How okay that is with what Brendan Rodgers was saying, or how valid it was, makes no difference. For me, they turned up there thinking we'll win this game, and they never got out. Once they got knocked out of a rhythm, they couldn't get back in it, because your attitude is massive going into a game, right? And then today they showed up, and I don't even know if it's application. To me, it's like, what's the plan? Kev mentioned something earlier. Tuchel makes a change, and 10 minutes later he goes, I've made a bollocks of that, and goes back to it. I'm not a Tuchel fan. I don't think he'd last there beyond another year. That's my opinion. But he's still seen something and went and changed it. Now, if Liverpool had come out there today and said, look, this is the midfield we're going with, it hasn't got great legs, so we're going to have to listen, fullbacks, you're going to sit back a little bit, these boys are going to break it up, and then you can go. But Jota, you need to be getting the ball into you. Mane, you need to be making the in-to-out runs, and Salah, you need to be doing whatever. But once you break down the fundamentals in that midfield, that's where it all starts for me. All starts for me. And that's why sometimes I understand people going, we need this sort of player, we need this sort of player, we need this sort of player, because 18 months ago you'd argue this is a really functional midfield, but look what it does to the rest of the side. But this season we've looked to be more creative in midfield, particularly the guy on the right in the 8, okay? Now, if you're going to do that, you need a certain player to do it, and you also need to apply yourself in a certain way, because he's going to be the man that's left all at sea for most of it, right? Because he's going to be the one that pushes up and stuff like that.
Genie.
You know,
everyone's gone on about Genie in the chat. Like, this is a fella who can't get a sniff at PSG because his legs are busted. So we don't. This isn't. There's a change of system that we obviously seen when Harvey Elliott was fit this year.
Yeah,
that we're going to be a bit more adventurous in terms of our midfield player, and that's why the balances was key. We think that was why Thiago was brought in to change her up a little bit, and I do think that tactical change has harmed us a little bit. It's made us, we're not as solid we're not as solid, and we're easier to get at. And we've seen that in the games where we've dropped points. Now, Seany, as a Liverpool player, was unbelievable, and I don't think anybody in here would deny it. And he did put himself about, and he was great in games like today where he held on to the ball. But we do need to move on, and we will need to look to bring somebody in his mould, because I do think that is the type of midfielder that we need. Now, obviously, we'll get on that. So I wouldn't be banging on about, I think this is a tactical thing, it's an application thing. It's a plethora of things that's actually affected this team in a negative way. If you actually look, most games are scoring goals for fun. But banging in goals, I still think we've scored more goals than anyone in the league. Maybe
Yeah,
City.
still creating
City
a bucket
just
full of chances.
overtaken us by 2, I think.
Yeah, and they've scored bleeding 5, 6, 7 in the last couple of games by Brentford. So you can't finger the blame on one thing here. It's a systematic issue, and it's flaws as well. Now,
Listen,
it is,
it's not-
Kev. It is a systematic
Yeah,
thing.
Can I just?
It's
we were
not a case
watching
of throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
We've got
it can be
10
fixed.
we've got a lot of clean sheets. We don't give up many chances. In all of the games that we've played this season, we don't give up many chances. But the chances that we do give up are good chances. And Alisson has made a lot of good saves this season. We create an awful lot of chances. We score a lot of goals. The problem is we've gone a bit too end to end. We haven't got the happy medium. Now today, going into today's game, we were missing 8 players. Between COVID and injury, after today's game, we're now missing 11. So, I mean, at the end of the day, there is no single signing that's going to fix that.
No, there's no. But I get that, Kev. But this isn't about what we're missing. When you put a team on a pitch, they should have a plan as to what they're to do. Now, if you go onto the pitch and say we're going to play A, B, and C in midfield, and they're going to press, and we press, and we get played around, fine, right? But you've gone with a plan and you've tried it. We went nowhere. We stood like, you know, in no man's land and went, well, what are we doing? That's what we done. Stevie LFC here has loads of comments and he thinks we're ignoring them. I'm not. He says nobody listened. I told you boys last week, this is the beginning of the end for Klopp's reign. This team is slowly declining. Yeah. He says, your boys are kidding yourselves. Look at Klopp's teams and his history. City gave themselves £100 million boost, and we sat in our holes and thought we were invincible. He says he's speaking facts, but these boys want to ignore it. Well, I'm reading them all out now, so I'm not
levels in these sort of
have you got a laptop and a
things.
mic? You should come on one week.
Yeah, it's all about the money. I don't know what that means. But anyway, he says we miss Genie massively today. Seany talking out of his hole. So there, Stevie, I've read them all out, and we will on a lot of them topics. We're going to talk about them in a little bit. We're trying to keep them away from the game, but we will talk about them in a little bit. But they get back into it. You know, it's a good goal. I like the Milner thing. Yeah, fair enough. He gives the free away, but it's a good strike. Some have called it. Called a bit lucky, but I think it's a really good hit.
I think it's lucky, but he connects perfect with it.
He was off balance.
He connects perfect with it. He's off balance, exactly. He's off balance. He's not setting himself to hit that. And the way he kicks it, but he hits it perfect and it goes in. And I think Kelleher, his dive is a bit ridiculous, but no keeper was saving that, because when you hit a sweet like that and it's going into the top corner, you know, it's a great goal. Don't get me wrong, but I do think he was off balance when he hit it and didn't. You know, there
was fuck all anyone could do about it. Henderson got out as fast as he could, but unless your name is Usain Bolt, you're not getting out to that. You know,
but you put yourself in that position by giving away stupid fucking
fouls. I know, but listen, you defend the free kick. It comes down with snow on it, and it's one of those, like, if we score that, and someone says, we gave away a soft free kick, you'd be going, yeah, but you got rid of it, and he just hit it pure, like, not pure, but he hits it perfect to where it needs to go, and like nobody's saving. You could have 2 in goal, I don't think you're saving it. Keith, the second one does my fucking head in though, because again, there's nothing in midfield, and what I mean by that is there's no one putting their foot on it and going, I'm having this. It breaks, there's a header, it goes in, Jota gets beaten in a tackle by Rudiger, it breaks down to Kante, who just lifts the ball over for Pulisic and he's in. And again, if we're either pressing or we're setting away, Kante is not 25, 30 yards from our goal, lifting the ball into Pulisic down an avenue where he's just running in on his own. It's down to us. It is down to us again.
Yeah, it's a, you know, it's the price of being 5 yards off everything today, being, you know, 10% below where they needed to be, because I think it's Salah that gets beaten in the first one by Rudiger, and then Kanate comes out to win it and it gets flicked over him, and it's Henderson that's bursting his balls to try and get back because Trent is sauntering. And look, we know Trent gets targeted on that side. We know that. That's what teams do. But it looked on all day, and it's a nice goal. It's a nice finish. Chelsea had a few minutes of pressure where they get the 2 goals back. I don't think Chelsea were great today. Chelsea have to look back at that and think, like, how have we not done more there? Because they were absolutely shy. I thought we were absolutely brilliant. We're here slating Liverpool, how bad they were.
Gareth Cambridge going mad. He said, "Would you ever fuck off, Gav?" He shanked it. He closed his eyes. No, listen, but he probably closes his eyes, crosses his fingers, and I don't know, whatever else. But what I'm saying is the way he catches it is perfection as to where it needs to go.
It's not quite YNWA Anfield a few years ago, like where you hit 1 in 100. Like Kovacic's a good player. He's a good player.
Yeah, he's technically he's an excellent player,
and it's good technique. And he gets the knee over the ball. It's a weird strike. It's like he glitched in a game and it goes in off the post. It could easily bounce out the other end, but just how we got there, fucking. That's what annoys you are going on about. It annoys me though is that the original free kick comes from a position where the fucking attacker is going nowhere.
Yeah, they're the worst.
It would have gone out for a corner. So
yeah,
he lost his head for a couple of seconds, Milner. And look, at the end of the day,
for 90 minutes, he was just lounging today.
But you still defended properly, and Kelleher got a good punch on it. You know, I mean, in fairness, it was just one of those.
It was one of those.
Unfortunately, we're going to be seeing that for a while as well. It's going to be in the goal of the season.
But look, it's 2-2 and it's half time, and do you know what? I want to talk about that second half as a whole without going into individual things, right? Because
can we not?
No. I just want your feel. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to go into individual things, right? So, Kev, I'll come to you because the second half for me, I don't know what went wrong in that second half for both sides. You know, I think Chelsea had more of the ball and more territory. I think me probably had the better chances.
Yeah. We could have won it.
Either team
Tommy Pickles is probably kicking himself that he left playing Lukaku at home, because I'm telling you, 20 minutes to go, bringing him on there would have been the job, because that was literally that was all he was missing. That was all he was missing.
There's more going on there than meets the eye. That's for sure. That's a whole other ball game.
Is your man still his agent?
Who's he? Raiola?
Is Raiola his agent?
I don't think so.
I'm starting to wonder on Lukaku, just to go off tangent a bit. I'm starting to wonder, have Chelsea got a sniff on this Haaland fella? And I think
did you not see Haaland on it? Did you not see the video of Haaland in Marbella?
No, Real Madrid jersey on him.
No, he turned around and said, "I'm coming to play in Spain." He said it. He's got
Okay.
He's going to Madrid.
I was starting to wonder whether they'd had a sniff at him, and Lukaku's got fucking wind of this, and he's decided to throw his toys out. Because you have to remember, like, when Lukaku signs for Chelsea, you know, it's all about I'm home and I love this and I love that, and you know, everyone was telling you it was the last piece of the jigsaw, and it's gone very sour very fucking quickly.
Yeah.
You know,
I gave him the benefit of the doubt because I thought it might have been something like, you know, you're talking to Italian TV, something might have been lost in translation. But the fact that it was leaked the day before they're due to play us,
that's a mad one.
And then the rest of the interview comes out and it got worse. He doubled down on it. Like, I was just, oh my God, what you mean? I mean, the problem is now Tuchel's contract is up at the end of the season.
I'd back Lukaku to outlast Tuchel.
Oh, honestly, he will, yeah. He will.
Because that Abramovich is mad.
Abramovich will get rid of Tuchel before he'll get rid of Lukaku.
Yeah, 100%.
Garmack says, Gav, I said it the other night and I'm saying it again, this squad needs a major shake-up in the summer. Too many players too comfortable in their starting positions. We will get to that later on, Gar, because, you know, a defeat at Leicester and a draw at Chelsea has really ramped things up with regards to the squad and stuff like that. And as I said, we like to have a balanced chat. We like to have a balanced debate, both on the four of us and the people in the chat that are going to fuel what we're talking about. And we won't turn away from talking about it. And we will do it later on. But Keith.
Yeah. I just checked. Rayola's not his agent anymore. He's moved away from Rayola.
Okay.
But he was with Rayola when he went to Man United.
Okay. But Keith, as we said, we'd good chances. They probably had more territory. Was it just a case of, because I thought when I got to 75-80, we're not winning this, and it was just a case of it's going to be a draw and let's get it out of the way.
Yeah, Vant and I thought we'd get sucker punched, to be honest. Second half was woeful, in fairness, but Chelsea don't fuck all in it. Kelleher makes that one save from, who was that, from Havertz, was it?
No, from Pulisic, off his shin.
Pulisic, yeah, and he just straight at him, he makes a great reflex save. But we've had a couple of good chances there as well, and, you know, there was nothing really happened in it in the second half. That's why I thought it was a bit of a shit game all around, and I'd be more concerned if I was a Chelsea fan than a Liverpool fan. But
any normal season, you look at the fixture list and you think, right, straight after New Year's, away at Stamford Bridge, take a point there. I'd be happy enough with the point.
But as Seany said, points are no use anymore.
I know, you know but this is where the Man City
I'm not being a smart fucker saying that.
No, you're not.
I'm genuinely not.
We said this 2 years ago when we us and City were running at that 97 and 98 point season. You couldn't afford, you know, when Man United were winning leagues and Arsenal, you could afford 6 defeats. 6 defeats was when you know, your cut-off point. I mean, you can't get 6 draws now. Do you know what I mean? And that's the state of play now. So draws aren't worth a shite anymore. But I just thought Chelsea today, they didn't do too much. I know what Sean is saying. If you're bringing in Lukaku, you have a focal point to that attack. They didn't have that, but I didn't think they sort of put anything for a centre forward to do. I thought they were poor, to be totally honest with you. But look, we're here to critique ourselves, and I didn't think we were going to score. I didn't think there was a late winner in it for us at all. I just thought we're making changes, we're taking off, we're putting Ox in for Jota. So naturally, Ox is a deeper player than that. So you're going to drop back. You've another player dropping back 10 yards further than where you were. And then you're bringing off Mane for Curtis Jones at the end. So it's like, right, that's another midfielder in there.
I've actually seen people slating Curtis. I mean, that's his first game since he's had a detached retina in, 2.5 months?
So same fella who played and couldn't kick water if they fell out of a boat. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't worry about it, honestly.
People want to top on a small bit. Like.
If Curtis is watching, I wouldn't lose much sleep.
No, we don't know.
Turning on FIFA and players are just 100% against. That's real life
Curtis
kids.
is only a silver in FIFA. So.
Well, Raffo Harper says Gavin, the boys still won't address the Klopp issue. I've looked back at your comments, Raffo.
Raffo's a wind-up merchant. He has to be, because what's this Klopp issue? He wants Klopp out for some reason.
He said Klopp should leave, and he's busted, and he should go. So what I'll do is, without any four of us saying a word on it, just type yes or no. If you think Klopp should leave Liverpool Football Club and he's busted, type it into the chat.
And Rafa, give us a shout for how you'd like to replace him as well, mate.
Yeah. And Stevie's,
so democracy around here.
Stevie's still having a great time in there as well. Fair play to him. But look, lads, you know, we talked about the subs, we talked about the second half. I'm with you, Keith, a little bit. I felt that if we actually went and pushed this, I think we could get sucker punched, and it'd be just the way the day went. Someone's asked me to mute them. No, I won't mute them. They're not being in any way
not being offensive.
Disrespect.
Yeah, they're not being offensive. So if that's their views, that's their views. That's absolutely fine. Man of the match. I think it's a hard one.
No Chelsea.
Johnny.
You're talking Liverpool's man of the match?
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to Konate. I thought he was good. Thought he looks very good today. Considering the circumstances, he actually looked like he was playing digging Virgil out at times, which Matip has gotten very good at as well this year. But between him and Quavian.
Yeah.
I'm going to straight up, I think it's Kelleher.
It's Kelleher all day long.
Same for you.
All day long.
Yeah, I mean, I think today, Kelleher, Konate and possibly Tsimikas are the only players that came out without any credit for me. So yeah, I'm gonna go for. I agree with Seany. I think Konate's pace
Yeah, right, Raffo. Yeah,
You
your
need
kick is
Big
up
Sam.
now, mate. Give her over.
Will you stop
yeah,
it?
you're being
Have a
lumble.
bleeding day off, buddy, will you? You know what? You
You
had
need
a few
Sam.
on the hook until
Yeah.
that. You could have
You
thrown
could have
some
went
of
on.
them
You
in
could have
from
went
League
on.
One or something.
Yeah, you let yourself down there, Raffle.
The mask slipped.
Oh God!
Everyone else now, you can all
imagine
relax.
fucking Sam
You can all
Allardyce rocking
relax.
up. And,
Look, if you're picking a
fucking-
genuine man of the match, if we were picking over the two sides,
Kovacic has to
Kovacic
be,
and
doesn't it?
Kante was excellent. He ran at Fabinho 3 or 4 times and just dusted him. And that's the first time Kante has played that 6 role in a long, long time. Normally he plays in that advanced midfield role to win that ball back high. He was excellent today. He really was.
He's a fantastic footballer.
He is a great player. He's one of those players that, I mean, Makalele had the position named after him, but he's head and shoulders better than what Makalele was. Head and shoulders.
I agree with you. Big
Okay.
time.
Moving on. Keith, I'll come to you. The title itself, Liverpool are 11 points off Man City with a game in hand. Still have to go away and play Man City. So if you want to look at it in a really positive light, you could say win your game in hand. It's 8, beat City, it's 5, and then it leaves about 15 odd games, 16 odd games maybe. With City having a 5-point lead over you. For you, is that it? Is the title done?
Look, I'm a
Are you giving-
pessimist.
are you
No, I'm an
giving it up?
optimist. Sorry, I'm an optimist. I always think we have a chance until the season is over. Until you're mathematically out of it, I think you have a chance. City, we spoke about it. You cannot drop points anymore, and we're dropping too many points. So we need City to start dropping points. Will they do that? City were absolutely shite yesterday. Not getting spoke about enough. They were dirt. Teams don't put it up to them. We've seen teams go to City and be beaten as soon as they go out onto the pitch. Now, this happened with Manchester United for years. But Manchester United would come out and would attack teams. City don't do that, and teams are sort of they're afraid of what City are going to do. So it's weird, like, you know, if Chelsea can go and take points off City, if Spurs can go and take points off City, if United can go and take points off City, then we have a chance. But can they take points off City?
There now, for God's sake. We'll just wind it back a small bit there and go again.
What?
United aren't going taking points off of anyone.
But do you know what they usually do? They have in the past. But I think we can until it's mathematically.
I'm not giving. I won't give it up.
I won't give it up until it's mathematically.
I'm just like that.
I'm gonna nail your coffin show here now in about 2 minutes.
Right, go on, nail it. Go.
Right, so we're 18 games in. We're at the halfway point now. 20. When you're looking at title winners, you're looking at contenders. You look at the tendencies that teams have. All right. So you look at Liverpool over the 18, 19 games that we've played. We've looked really good in some. We've looked really bad in others. And we're giving up leads every now and again. All right. So if we beat Leeds at home, we're 8 points behind City. All right. So we will need to accumulate 8 more points between now and the end of the season than Man City will. And it's just not going to happen because I get what
beating them. That has to be including beating them at their
place.
Yeah,
and what I'm telling you is, Keita, they could very well draw next week to Chelsea in the Etihad. But what they will do is then win 8, 9, 10 in a row, not a bother. Not a bother. And then what you're waiting for then is them. They need to then, in the last how many games? 8 games to drop X amount of points. This taken into account we're always being perfect. So it's do you know what? If this was Chelsea with that lead, I'd be saying it's a big task, but it's not over. But this Man City side, I'll tell you what, they're one of the worst hunters. They're shy when they need to pull results out of bag, when they're chasing leads. But see how holding on to them, they are fucking relentless. There hasn't been a team in the history of the competition that have been better than them. And I'd say this is probably the 3rd best Man City team that Klopp's gone up against. This isn't even their best side. But they're just fucking relentless. They don't even have an out forward. Gundogan didn't play yesterday. Grealish wasn't even in the squad. Kyle Walker was on the bench. And on top of that, with all this COVID shit going on, they haven't been affected by it, but they won't feel it because the squad is humongous. And this is not a slight on Liverpool. You can only look at what Liverpool have done. You can't base it off 19 and 20.
I looked at
and
today,
I will
Liverpool-
say something.
Liverpool are averaging 2.1 points a game, which
only-
would put you in around 80 points for the season.
Yeah, but there's
At the
only
moment.
2 90-point teams in this league. And I said it weeks ago, even when Chelsea were ahead. And you can go back and check. I said there's still only 2 90-point teams in this league. And I believe that, all right? So I think the maximum we can get now is 96 points. All right? You're not going to win this league with less than 92. So you're telling me that we'll only drop 4 points between now and the end of the season? Because I do reckon that's what it's going to take to win this. And
I'm not
I'd
saying
normally be optimistic, but this team, when they're in the lead, they don't give fucking anything up. And like Keith said yesterday, they were shite yesterday, but it does not matter. Teams are going to struggle. We will struggle away at the Emirates this year because Arsenal are a fucking decent side now. Make no bones about it. They are a decent side.
Yeah.
They'll be banging it for top 4. They just had moments where they were a little bit wet behind the ears in terms of playing these big games. Gabriel. But what did they do? City, bang, bang, banging away, and they just win. They got away to Brentford, and they just fucking win. They win, and that's it. And that's the end of it.
Yeah,
And it's everything is falling for them. Decisions. They play Chelsea now next week. Kepa's in goal. It's all going that way. And you need luck to win a league title. You will not win a title without luck. I don't care what
100%,
anybody says.
yeah.
People turn around going, you're giving excuses, this, that, and the other. We had massive luck in 1920. We literally had our best 11 fit for 38 games. I think you could pick the amount of times when players were missing out, but we literally had the core of our squad was there for the whole lot. Alisson misses a few games at the start, but we get through. After that, it's literally like that. With the way the league is going, cancellations here, players dropping like flies, we can't afford it. A squad is not big enough. Outside the 13 or 14, we struggle. And that's just the truth, boys. I'm sorry.
The only thing I'd say is
14, 14 really good players at Liverpool. And if you're missing 3, 4, 5 players for whatever reason at a time, we will struggle. And it's because we're a well-oiled machine that is literally primed to go. We've the best 11 in the Premier League, but it's no fucking use to you if you can't get them on the pitch 90% of the time. And I'm sorry.
You usually do better in the second half of the season. That's the only thing you can cling on to. But
the only thing the thing that fucking has me up the wall, Keith, is what normally every year under Klopp, I think bar in 1920, we go to shite in January, February. I think there was 2 years where we didn't score a goal under Klopp in January. So
true.
So you've given it up. That's,
100%, Gav, 100%. And I'll die on the hill because I genuinely think we are out of it. And not with us are out of it. Nobody's in it. I'd say Sky are up the fucking wall because for weeks you had Neville on his podcast. This is going to be one for the ages. 3 teams really in it. This is why we love the Premier League. And it's fucking over. It's over after a week. All bar the bleeding stinging, all done bar the shouting. It's over. They're going to be drawn up the rest of the fixtures for the rest of the season from the end of January to February. And I'm telling you, we won't be on the telly much. We won't be on the telly much. And Chelsea might not be on the telly much because I'd reckon we're nailed on for runners up here. Yeah. I reckon we're nailed on. I think we're good. We'll get runners up and it'll be all about top 4 and relegation because that's what's going to sell subscriptions for them because there's no fucking title race to be had here. I'm afraid. And I really want to see us now attack the 2 domestic cups and Europe. I really do. I genuinely want to see us going at them now because I think we've treated those competitions with contempt for far too long. And with the position we're in now, we should be really going at them.
You can't attack all them without attacking the Premier League as well because if you don't attack the Premier League, you end up being dragged into the top 4 race.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's my only thing.
Yeah. We'll win enough games. I think the cushion that we have now over that top 4, there's none of them teams chasing us are gonna obliterate that. West Ham are all over the shop. I think they got that first win in 6 yesterday. United's a mixed bag. Arsenal mixed bag, and they all have to play each other as well. Yeah. So I don't see us getting dragged into that.
No. I won't give it up. I will concede that it's a massive ask, especially with, like you said, what City do. Someone said in the chat there a minute ago, the only team they fear is us, and I do agree with that. But I think when you look how it's stacked at the moment with the AFCON and stuff like that, that's where even going into January transfer windows and all. Liverpool could sign 2 or 3 in the January transfer window. I don't think they will, but I don't think it'll make a difference to what City have. They just have so many fucking players that are just signed on, for massive amount of money, and they just have them all sitting there, and it doesn't matter. Well, they're playing a different game. I said it for so long, and to keep up with them is an amazing feat. I won't give it up, but I think you make very fair points with regards to what would need to be done, and it is a very, very long shot. But I can't bring myself to concede anything on the 2nd of January. I just can't.
And Gav, can I not get this mixed up? Like, I'm not saying we're useless and we're out of it.
No. I think that's what
we're
you have to
chasing
be,
this bleeding juggernaut of a City team, and I wish it was Chelsea, honestly, because I'd have no qualms that we could reel them in. But just they're horrible. They're absolutely horrible. I hope Pep fucks off, because I genuinely think if Pep jibbed it, Klopp would sign on for another 3 or 4, because I think he would fancy himself to deliver titles when he's not around. And it's not because Pep's ultimately a better manager. He's just.
Can we talk about him for a minute?
Yeah, if you want.
Because I think he gets. Seany, sorry if I couldn't across you there, because I'm sure you were sort of leading to. It's not that he's a better manager than Klopp. I think Pep gets so much disrespect. In England,
he's genuinely one of the greatest coaches of all time, and I think he has unlimited resources, basically.
Yeah.
So if you look at Tuchel more or less has unlimited resources, but I'd back us to finish above them 9 times out of 10. I just think Pep is of that level where he will just gear that team up to perfection. And there'll be no holes.
When you have the unlimited resources and you have the genius, it's too hard to pull back. So it's too easy to say that Pep gets it easy because he has all the money.
Exactly. That's the only thing that's against him, Keith. Like, he literally has gone around to the best teams and the strongest financial sides in the league and the best team and whatever.
He changes the game.
He does. There's no doubt that he's a really, really, really he's an excellent coach. Would I take him over Klopp? No. And that's just for the whole package. That's just me, right? But that's the only slight against that can ever be thrown at Pep Guardiola. If Pep Guardiola decided tomorrow he was leaving Man City and he was going to Napoli, and he went and won a title in Napoli, I think it meant more to a lot of people watching from the outside in that he done it at Napoli than he ever done at Barcelona, which, to be honest, his Barcelona side in 2011, I want to say, was just fucking outrageous. But if he went and done that, a lot of people from the outside will go, yeah, he done that at Barca, he done that at Bayern, he done that at Man City, but he went and won one at Napoli.
Honestly, if you'd have given Guardiola the squad that Klopp inherited, it'd be in a padded cell. That's the God honest truth.
Yeah.
He would. It's just
the one thing that Pep doesn't get credit for, though, is his ability to manage the egos in the City squad. You've got 24, 25 international players. You don't hear a peep out of them that I'm not playing.
They're all on about 400 grand a week. That's what.
Yeah, but they still have the.
It's on the minimum wage, but you want to see the bonuses.
They want to play. And
well, there's Ferran Torres comes out, gets sold, and Pep Guardiola comes out and says, "People don't want to be here. They go." So Torres was obviously kicking up a fuss.
And 25 million profit, I think they made on the back of that as well.
Yeah, it was a nice little.
And where Barcelona found it down the back of the sofa.
And all that being said, I would back us to beat them over 2 legs in Europe.
Yeah, same here.
Because everyone's fit. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because they're perennial bottlers. But the same way I fancy them to go and be brilliant in the Premier League.
They're very good front runners.
Yeah,
and it comes down to Pep again, doesn't it? Because Pep's micromanagement is what makes them so good in a league campaign over 38 games, and it's what holds them back in the in the Champions League, because he overthinks it and he tries to be too clever. And I think, it's like I said, I'm a huge fan of Pep Guardiola, and if you switched roles reverse, he went to Liverpool when Klopp did. You're right, Sean, he wouldn't have been winning bleeding anything, because he needs the best players.
Yeah.
It's wankery, like, but compare him to a bleeding famous painter or a sculptor. He's a genius, the fella. You know what I mean?
I think the best thing for Pep Guardiola, the best chance he has of winning the Champions League, is to use a squad, right? Genuinely, use a squad from August to January, right? And then tell 8 of them to fuck off. I mean that, and go into the middle of February with Champions League games and go, listen, I'm not using 25 of them. I'm using this 17. from now to the end of the season, and they're going to get into a rhythm because you're right, he overthinks it. He starts making changes all over the fucking shop, and it just he can't get that rhythm.
We thought he got away from that last year, and then he goes and does it in the final. Like,
yeah,
so
but the thing
it's a massive monkey on his back. It's a big monkey on his back.
It's a huge thing, and it follows on from the Bayern thing, you remember, because Bayern had won a treble under I always forget the guy's name. Young Poinkus. He wins a treble there, right? And he goes in, and they're all like, "Well, Guardiola will do it. He's better than Young Poinkus," and he doesn't. And that was a monkey on his back at Bayern. And then he arrives into City, and all right, this would be 4. Would it be 4 titles in 6? And that's great, but the Champions League stuff is always around them. And they should be winning one. Let's be honest with the stuff they have, they should be winning one. But look, we'll have to wait and see. You never know who they're going to draw. Because I think
I wouldn't be shit scared if we draw them in a quarterfinal.
No,
I wouldn't worry about that. Because by the time that will come around, we're in a totally different space. And
I just want Klopp. I want Klopp and Pep to go at it again with 2 squads, no COVID affected 2 squads, and go at it again. And I want to bring this on to before we finish up, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at our squad. Now, there was a guy on Twitter who messaged me earlier. He tweeted me earlier. What didn't message me? Tweet me. Dunks is his name. He's a nice fella on Twitter. Yeah. And he said, look, lads, the overriding feeling amongst the Daytrippers at the start of the season was we had a really, really good squad, team and squad, and we felt that some players that hadn't shown form may come back and show form, and we got it wrong. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. And I've no problem saying a lot of us got it wrong with regards to the squad. But I suppose looking at what City have, and it's hard to go and compare it and say what do we do to get to where City have the squad, because I think it's nigh on impossible, right, under the way we do things and the way most teams do things. If Newcastle go and fucking spend billions, or Chelsea continue to spend, or United actually get the house in order, right? Keith, if I say to you now, right, forget what happens this season. I want you, and January, forget that for a minute as well, because we've a history of not doing anything in January. But if I said to you, Keith, now we're going into next season, no COVID, fans in stadiums, there won't be any COVID fucking about. I want you to tell me what Liverpool need to do and FSG need to do for Jurgen Klopp to put him in a position there. We all start on the starting line next August, right? And we're all going for a league title. And we know what happens there with Guardiola. What does he need? Because he definitely needs backing, Keith. There's no doubt about it.
He does need backing. You know, we done a show in the summer about what you do with the squad. And look, I was getting rid of 17 players and bringing in a good few. That was, you know, it wasn't 17 first-team players, but it was, you know, a lot of players, the likes of Mane, Salah, I might have had on the list as well, because I was thinking along the lines of, you know, if you're not going to sign them to a contract, what do you do? They're running out of time. I think we need, in the squad now, I think we need at least 2 midfielders, at least. I think we need to, the midfield needs to be overhauled now. I think we need a forward. And I think, you know, what would I do with the squad? Well, I would give Bobby a new contract, or else I'd let him run down and go on a free. Mane, I don't know what I do with Mane, because I don't know what to do with Mane, because you're giving him a contract. I'm not giving him a pay rise. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know if he's taking a pay cut. So it's a hard one, but I would realistically look to bring in 2 energetic young midfielders, and they don't have to be 2 starting midfielders. I think we need to have an option that can rotate with Fabinho. Loads of people say Basuma all the time, and he's getting mentioned in the chat there. I think Basuma's too much fucking money. I think you're going to talk more north of 50 million for Basuma.
Well, he's only a year left now after this season.
I know, but I'd take him. He'd be a great signing for a good price.
He's deadly.
For a good price.
If we could make sure that his personal issues are sorted out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's a given.
Problem.
That's a given. That goes without.
As long as his baggage is sorted out,
like
then yeah.
But that type of player that can come in and can cover, or can go in and play games, it doesn't have to be, you know, Jude Bellingham. I'd love Jude Bellingham in that team. Are we going to pay 100 million? I don't know. All the talk is Jude Bellingham would love to play for Liverpool, would love to play for Klopp. Mightn't get his way if
don't do this to ourselves. Don't do this to ourselves, please.
But I think we need to have. I think Milner. We can't see Milner starting these big games anymore, because it's evident more and more that he just doesn't have the legs. I think Ox and Keita have been good this season, to be honest with you. I think they've been decent, but they're two that are on contract renewals as well. What do you do with them? I think we need two quality midfield players that can come in. Harvey Elliott, Klopp the Mystic Free World is saying they'd be like a new signing. Harvey was very good when he came in this season, and it'd be great to get him back. But I still think we need two. I think we need two midfielders. I think we need a world-class forward. It doesn't have to be a Haaland or an Mbappe. As we said earlier, Shawnee touched on replacing the likes of Mane. Look what we've done with Jota. You know what I mean? A good player in that sort of range that can come in and that Klopp will work on. They're the type of players, we're not going to bring in the top players, but we just need to bring in the right players. I think that does need to be. I think we've said this before, we're a couple of windows behind where we should be, where this squad is getting too old. It's, we've brought in younger players. We brought in Konate, and he's starting to look like a really, really good player. We brought in Tsimikas again. He's starting to look a really good player when we need him. And they're at good ages as well. And I think more players of that ilk into the squad. And then if you're putting a Henderson out the pasture, as in he's coming on and he's the Milner that comes into games, well, then that's fine, because your squad needs to be better. So you don't kick out one and bring one in, because then you're in the same position where we are. We need a bigger and more flexible squad. So I'd bring in two midfielders and a forward to start, or to be challenging for the starting positions.
Well, we've got the space in the squad now to bring in one. We sold Shaqiri in the summer without replacing him. We went into
tried to give him back to us, for fuck's sake.
We went into the season with a 24-man squad, not a 25-man squad, which is absolutely criminal. Dennis Zakaria's contract is up in the summer. I take him now. Gladbach are doing absolutely nothing.
He's out. He's like a bleeding tampon, that fella. In for a week, out for a month.
He's been very consistent this last 18 months. He's been playing regularly. He's had injury issues, granted. The other one that they're looking at, apparently, with injury problems was Renato Sanchez, but he's been hawked around every club in Europe. He's a very good player. Don't get me wrong. He's a brilliant player, but he's not consistent enough in appearances. Barella would be a high on my list as a box-to-box mid. Someone who could come in, who's dynamic.
I'm not going to be mad money, Kev. I'm not going to.
You're not going to compete with Man City unless you go and spend. Okay, so you have to. No,
the thing for me is like
he already has.
But we're mentioning.
But he did
Jude
spend,
Bellingham there,
and
right?
that squad was a perfect age. We've missed Bellingham.
Jude Bellingham, if you were to say, just as an example.
He's the only one out of all them I'm throwing the money at.
Yeah, but the thing is, Jude Bellingham, right? Basuma's mentioned there as well, right? But Jude Bellingham is basically another Van Dijk or Alisson signing. Depending on the way you look at it, basically they were signed because we sold Philippe Coutinho, right? Now my argument always is that we're signing Van Dijk before Coutinho ever opened his mouth, right? But you can look at it again and go, well, okay, I'll give you that one, but these Alisson, Fabinho, wherever it might have been, was signed off the back of the Coutinho money, right? Because FSG have this thing of spending what they earn, and that's what you're seeing during COVID. They didn't want to spend a fucking penny, right? But the Jude Bellingham thing would have to be one of those. It's just way too good to turn down. But Shawnee, like we spoke about this last January, and me and you were fucking apoplectic at what FSG were doing with regards to centre half situation. And I'll ask the question because it has to be asked, right? I think for the model they try do, I think they're really good at it. Okay? I think the squad they've put together is really, really good. They've spent money, there's no doubt about that. But when you look at what Man City have, what Chelsea have, potentially, what Man United can have if they just hadn't got rocks for brains, and what Newcastle, despite what trouble they're in, will have.
The Championship.
I know what people are saying. We don't need 60 million players. We don't need 70 million players. But I'm even worried at the thought now. I'm genuinely worried at the thought Liverpool even having to turn around and go, you know what, we're putting 150 million down the table this summer. We have to. It's a rebuild. We have to. And you have to remember, they've put out these things around 2022 was always on their radar as a rebuild. Are you
Who
confident
put
that?
that out though, Gav?
Are you confident? Well, numerous journalists did.
James Pearce and his
Right,
cronies.
numerous journalists said that this is what you're looking at, right? So if you take that at face value, because you kind of have to, because you haven't done it in 2021. Shawnee, what I'm saying to you is can you see a rebuild happening to the level that people are calling for? Because I agree with Keith. I think you do need two midfielders. The next forward signing, I keep saying and I keep banging on about it, is massive. Massive. Can you see it being done, Shawnee? Because I don't see it being done in January. And when it gets to the summer,
absolutely won't be done in January.
I'm struggling to see it.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know, because to be honest with you, Gav, we could end up with another bleeding variant with closed stadiums again, and then the COVID bleeding bucket is getting rattled about again. There's empty stadiums and this, that, and the other. Look, people giving out about FSG, you need to realise what's happening here at the FSG, all right? They took over the club under a very set of certain circumstances, under the belief that there was going to be some sort of firewall called FFP that would protect the integrity and the fairness of the game, all right? But that's proved to be absolutely fucking rubbish, all right? And it doesn't exist. So from the off, they're at a disadvantage, all right? On top of that, you'd have to well believe that they were of the idea that a European Super League was going to kick off, and the money that might have come in from that, they would have been using to sign players, all right? So this is two things, all right? And this is the way they've always operate. And you need to realise that they don't have the money or the resources of a City, Chelsea, even a United, because we're in the process of trying to become like United were in the 90s and becoming a commercial juggernaut and making enough money where the club runs on itself, all right? So we've been hit by COVID here. We've had to pay out massive bonuses. If you actually look at the numbers, all right, they haven't taken a penny out of the club, and they've absolutely put nearly every penny into whether it's infrastructure, stadium renewals, or player contracts, all right? That's just, it is what it is. If it's there, they use it, all right? They're reluctant to take out loans.
It's a self-sustaining model on every level.
All right, they're reluctant to take out loans, and they're reluctant to actually dip into their own chest and spend some of their own money, all right? And now, I'd say that people, I get their gripes with them, and they've made mistakes, and this, that, and the other. But this is the level that they operate, all right? Now, you need to look at our team going into this summer. Who can we sell that's worth about load of cash? I don't know, all right? I don't care who you bring in, Gav. You've got to sell Origi. You've got to sell either both Keita and Ox, one or the other, or both. Sort it out between them yourselves. And then you move on with the renewal of Salah, and then you build Klopp 2.0 from there on. Because who knows how long he's going to be going on. I agree, we're behind in windows. We can name all of these players now, but the price of them has gone up now automatically, because when we go in, they're going to want them. We're not going to be the only ones chasing Bellingham. We weren't the only ones chasing Sancho. So you have to believe what you read, all right? It came out after, and there's been noise after. We bid 70 million for Chiesa in the summer, all right? That's well known, and there's lads I know who are Juventus fans from Italy who I work with, and they were telling me that throughout the summer. They are trying to get Chiesa. They genuinely are. And we bid 70 million, and we went to Fiorentina with the money because he technically still belonged to them.
Yeah.
And Juventus wrapped it up straight away. So they are willing to spend the money if they know going down the line. And that's the only thing that makes me think that there could be something in Bellingham, because you're signing Bellingham, who will be the face of English football, I feel, down the years. I do think coming into it.
Yeah, but do you blow everything on Bellingham? Because
no, but it doesn't have to be anything now, because I would genuinely trust Klopp to buy a 15, 20 million euro player from League One and turn him in and get the same return out of at him now as he is from Mane, and for him to plus that and grow as a player. We don't buy world-class players, lads. We don't. We did it with Thiago, all right? Yeah. We did it with Thiago. Alisson wasn't world-class when we bought him. He come off one good season he had with Roma. That's all he had. Van Dijk we were laughed
one
at
season. He was behind Chesney the year before that. He was only at Roma for 2 years, and he was behind Chesney in the first year.
Yeah, we got laughed at for the money we signed Van Dijk for. We got Salah for pittance in the grand scheme. We done well to get Mane. I think our recruitment hasn't been great. I think Jota's a great signing. The one for me, if you to get 2 players in the summer, and I know I'd get Luis Diaz from Porto. I'd get him, and I'd pay the cash. He's ripping her up there. I've seen him live in the Champions League. Everything was going to him. He has the chops to play for Liverpool, no doubt about it. I get Luis Diaz and I get Bellingham, and if I can't get Bellingham, I get Basuma, and then you get one other to complement and play as a squad player, and that's exactly what we need. Players of that ilk, someone who can kick on to the next level.
Right.
Because
So
you don't buy world class.
What about
can I just ask this question?
Is a
then?
cardio
I
on a
wouldn't go
Bosman?
near Kessie. Kessie is a donkey.
No,
He's
don't
I
go
agree.
near Kessie.
By the
But
way,
what
I
I'm saying
agree.
is, Jono says this, and I want to ask. I'll put it here. The model has limits. This model is no good for this league when you have to compete with the City, Chelsea, United every season, right? And others have said that the model works to a certain extent. Like you yourself saying, sign this player, I have the belief that we can get him to there. That's under Jurgen Klopp. Now, when we get to this summer, we've 2 more years of Jurgen Klopp, realistically, before he leaves, right? So, do we just buy these players and let Klopp develop them and then move on, right, under the model? Or is it a case of the model only suits at this time to a certain level, right, because of Jurgen Klopp? What do we do after that? So, is it a case of when Klopp goes, this model absolutely gets exposed?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. There's zero doubt about that. But you need to realise that FSG can't just turn around tomorrow and say, it's not like you're bleeding putting up a bike on adverts saying, I want to, like, the money it's going to take to buy Liverpool. You realise how bad of an investment would be now for anybody who could afford it to buy Liverpool now.
I've said it for
You're
ages. The
buying
only
an
buyers,
asset
buyers,
an asset at the peak of its value.
correct.
When you could literally buy, for example, a Newcastle for a sixth of the value, and in a decade's time, be in the exact same place where you would have been if you bought a Liverpool, because Man City and Chelsea have shown that over time with money it works. It'd be a terrible. FSG have been hamstrung by UEFA, who haven't protected the game enough, so much so that they said, actually, we're going to have to fucking go into a Super League now because you and your poxy FFP are out to fucking us. And that's exactly what happened. I'd hate to tell you any other way, lads. FFP is the damnation of FSG. And I don't care. If they sold us tomorrow, I don't care who owns us, to be honest with you. I'm a Liverpool fan. I couldn't give a shite. People have a bang on about John Henry. I guarantee you, John Henry wouldn't think about Liverpool from one end of the week to the other because he's so rich he pays other people to do that for him. So you should be looking at Billy Hogan and the likes. John Henry doesn't give a bollocks. He just sees numbers and optics. He doesn't care about Liverpool. And that's not because he's a shite bag. It's because he's a businessman. And that's what they do. They're not invested.
I think the level Liverpool are at, I think you're right. The level Liverpool are at, it's a case of someone coming in like a Russian oligarch, someone from the Middle East, someone that comes in with mega wealth, where this is a trophy to them, you know, and that's the level you're at. It's a 9 out of 10 size club. It's not a 6 out of 10 size club where you go, I can get another 3-4 points out of this and make them a 10 out of 10 club. I'll invest a lot of money, but I'll get something back on it. You're not. You're going to have to invest a huge amount of money to stay exactly where they are and move them up half a notch. You know, the sort of way. Kev,
look at Managerial at Everton, like, he's there with loads of money and he's doing fuck all with it. You know, money doesn't guarantee that, and you need to be bleeding savvy as well.
Yeah, but Liverpool are quite savvy in the people they have around FSG doing what they're doing. Everton aren't. You know, you see it. Like,
but what I mean is, like,
Rafa Benitez in there swinging hooks, trying to get
who boys the club could be a Managerial, or it could be fucking someone else. You know what I mean?
All the kills are now clue, isn't it?
But that's the thing. Everton are there with fellas that are just, you know, Marcel Brands and you know, and Benitez took one look at him and get him away. Do you know what I mean? But it's one of those. Kev, I'll give you the last word now. I don't see anything happening in January. That's just the way I am. I'm only going on form with regards to Liverpool. But when you look at what Klopp has left on his contract, and when you look at what Liverpool have within the squad and where we are you confident that FSG, because there's no doubt about it, you know, their ability to wheel and deal with this squad is reducing all the time. right? Because of the contracts that have been signed, the age of players, the form of players, how much you can get from them. Their ability, they probably have one left in Mo Salah, right? That they could sell to fund this. But their ability to wheel and deal with this squad, I think, is vastly reduced on what has been over the last couple of years, which means that they will need to, regardless of this spend what we earn, I get all that. But they're going to have to go above that for me. I am definitely, they should have done it last year for me. They definitely have to do it this year. Are you confident in them doing that over the next, well, not 30 days, but the next 6 months?
I think they're going to have no choice because Newcastle should scare the shit out of them. If they want to keep Liverpool, and if they want to keep Liverpool as being a top 4 side, they are going to have to put their hand in their own pocket. And if they don't, then there's every chance that we fall out of the top 4. And that's just being honest and realistic. The squad, I think you did a pod last year, it was way before I came on, and you were apoplectic at the fact that we were going through window after window after window, and we weren't reducing the age of the squad. We weren't adding enough quality. And eventually the pipe, someone's going to have to pay the piper. And we're going through window after window after window of not addressing key areas in the squad for longevity. That next summer, every window, you get an opportunity to improve your squad. Why we're oblivious to doing it in January is beyond me. Because there's no reason why you can't find good players in January to finish the season and have them right for next summer or the next season. None. There's no reason why we can't, why we shouldn't. And take advantage of the fact that we're in a good position at the minute. We're in a strong enough position as a club to be able to take advantage of a January window. There are players out there that are good players. You don't have to be a world-class superstar to be coming into Liverpool to improve us at the minute. If they don't put their own hand in their own pocket this summer, they're going to hurt their own investment. And that's something I can't see happening. The one thing the FSG are very good at is very good at making money and increasing the value of the club. And to maintain the value of Liverpool, you have to be in the Champions League year in, year out, without exception and without fail. Now, Arsenal at the minute are a very young squad, but they've bought well and they will be a force in the next 2 or 3 years. Spurs under Conte, who knows what they're going to do, but I can't imagine they're going to sit on their hands this January and this summer. So Conte will improve Spurs. Newcastle are going to come up on the rails. They'll stay safe this summer or this season. They'll stay in the league this season, and then they'll go big over the next couple of years. There's another challenge. United will, at some point, get it right. They're a standing joke at the minute, but they will eventually get it right. That's 6 powerhouses. And that's before you talk about Chelsea and Man City. So if they don't pull their finger out, we're going to be very much in conversations about top 4 and not in conversations about Premier League titles.
Premier League going to be in Indonesia and all by then. We'll be playing the Super Leagues. I wouldn't worry about it. Gav, you're laughing. I'm deadly serious.
No, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you.
Off your head if you think this Super League is not still coming around the corner.
Oh, it'll come around every time there's a TV contract to be negotiated.
Cynical OG says, by the end of January, when we haven't signed a single player, the FSG apologists will be dying on that proverbial hill. Good luck defending that. I don't know if we're FSG. I'm not an FSG apologist. I just call them as I see them, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Because at the end of the day, they're the owners of the football club. They're not on the pitch. I care about what's on the pitch. I also care about.
I say this.
I also care about what we do in the transfer market and what we do, how we look as a football club. That's why they made a huge mistake with the Super League and stuff like that. But yeah, there will be a FSG.
One sec, Barry Devney. If you think Newcastle are 7 years away, you don't pay any attention to what Saudi Arabia have been doing in sport for the last few years.
No, listen. If they stay up,
I'm telling you that now.
If they stay up, God love us all, because they can do what the fuck they like. Because FFP don't
giving
come near
Kieran Trippier 180 grand a week.
Yeah, they don't have anyone coming near them until they get into Europe, and it won't matter. So it's
they have 3 years worth of spending free.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to end up with Mourinho as their manager next year, and. They're going to be a few years away. They're a few years away from from really doing that because their squad is so poor at the moment. They can't do it all in one window or one.
No, but they can do it in about 3 or 4.
Year. I think it take 3 or 4. Yeah, I think I wouldn't be worried about them quite at the moment.
No.
But the thing about what Cynical OJ is saying, the end of January haven't signed a single player, that's your fault. If you're expecting them to sign a player, we don't fucking sign players, so don't get annoyed about it if it doesn't happen. Like Klopp will not sign players for the sake of it.
I can see where some annoyance comes from, Keith, because at the end of the day, like Kev says, you have to protect your asset, you have to protect your interests. And if they're looking at, and I know there's players away in the AFCON and they're only going to miss this and they're only going to miss that, but aside from that, we're looking at this squad now and you have to ask questions. You do have to ask questions over some of the players and the quality and their ability to win games for Liverpool Football Club. You know?
Yeah.
And we're like, listen, all of us here know, Keith, what issues are with regards to the squad. We all know them. What people are saying is, why can't we just do it today rather than telling us we'll kick it down the road for 6 months? Because in 6 months, you'd be sitting here going, we finished 5th. Because you know what? These fucking players got injured and these players were out of form and we didn't do anything in January and it was screaming at us. And that's where I do get where people come from with that, Keith. I genuinely do.
Yeah, but it's, you know, Klopp is, forgetting about FSG, look at Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp will not want to bring in 3 players in January to prop up a Liverpool squad because it's not how he coaches. Do you know what I mean? He was desperate for a centre-back last year. They didn't get the one they wanted, which we know was Kanate. We knew we suspected at the time was Kanate, but we were playing Leipzig in the Champions League. So we weren't going to get him and we ended up with a mishmash of shy. We're not going to sign 2 or 3 players in January. If we sign one, we'll be doing great. But there's no point in then getting bleeding annoyed with FSG and, you know, born and bleeding effigies of them because they didn't sign players. Like, Klopp is the manager as well, and Klopp doesn't, like, he works with a squad. He won't sign a forward, for example, because Salah and Mane are at AFCON, because they'll be back in January.
No, but he should be signing the forward because Divock Origi isn't on the pitch and Minamino isn't being given opportunities.
He should be doing that. But he trusts Divock Origi and he trusts Minamino and he trusts fucking everyone in that squad. He trusts that Harvey Elliott can come in and be a player. It's part of the buy-in. If you buy in,
if he'd have sold Origi, if he'd have got a good enough offer.
How many has he done it to? Divock Origi will run down his contract and will move.
Yeah, he will. It's his biggest flaw.
It is his biggest flaw, but it's part of the man. That's what you're getting.
His loyalty to players is his biggest flaw, in my opinion.
So there's no point in getting annoyed with fucking FSG without getting annoyed with Jurgen Klopp. That's my point. You know what I mean? Like, it's not one, it's everything. It's why Klopp is so good. We're so successful. It's not just Klopp. Yet it's mainly Klopp. Don't get me wrong. But it's FSG supporting them. It's Michael Edwards doing his things. It's fucking everyone else. And don't get me wrong, I'm not giving them the credit. It is Klopp. But it works because everyone works and pulls in the same direction. Do you know what I mean? So you have to, if you love Klopp and you want Klopp to be, we know what Klopp is. That's part of the payoff. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to just buy players. Pep came out and said, you have to refresh your squad every year. To be successful, you have to refresh your squad. Klopp won't do that. He'll refresh 1 or 2, but he's not going to do major overhauls unless he really has to. After the Champions League against Real Madrid, when we went and we had to get rid of Karius, we had to upgrade, we had to get in Fabinho. He paid big and he done that.
What'll be a big telltale sign to me, lads, is what sort of direction we're going in. And all the talk is now that it's close and his entourage are close. Mohammed Salah would not commit for another 3 or 4, 5 years to this club if he doesn't think he's going to be competing for trophies. And you don't think he just walks in and goes, I want 500 grand a week. No, he doesn't. He's going to turn around and go, okay, where are we going? Klopp's out the door in 2024. My contract will probably take me slightly past that. So what are we going to be doing to make sure that we're still competing? These are the conversations that will be had. Same with Van Dijk, Alisson. Yeah,
but they were all asking
for not waste the primes of a career hanging around just for a paycheck because they could have done it somewhere else. So you need to think about that. All right, they would have got more. Yeah, dead right, Kev. So you need to look at it that way. People, it's not like FIFA where you walk in and say, we'll give you 500 grand. No, it's not. It's way more complex than this. You need to understand. Look at Salah. Look how driven he is. He's not going to sit around Liverpool lingering in top 4 battles for the next 4 or 5 years. He's not going to commit to it.
Yeah.
And the words is he
gonna
wants to stay.
Yeah,
So
he's
he
going to want
knows.
assurances. The same way players signing contracts in the last
Exactly.
couple of months wanted probably assurances on Salah.
So
Look, we better
you need to
finish
think
up.
about it that way.
We're nearly 2 hours in here. But before we do, I'll give you a run through on what's coming this week. A couple of people have asked about football in the world, or what's the other name for it? The Man on Football Show. I nearly forgot there because Football in the World is the only thing it's fucking called at this stage. But I'll give you a run through on that and what we have coming up for the rest of the week. But Shawnee, before we go, there was a very sad story over Christmas. Around a friend of yours and his girlfriend who passed away on Christmas Day, the morning of Christmas Day, and I know you wanted to mention it. I know you wanted to give it a mention, and you wanted to give a shout out to the community around this girl that died or passed away. It's very, very, very sad, but I know you wanted to give a mention to the great work that's gone on since Christmas Day and raising money for the family and stuff.
Yeah, so it's been a bit of an odd one for me this Christmas because on Christmas Day I got word that a friend of mine his girlfriend had passed away, and it's people who watch the show like long enough will probably remember I actually done a podcast with him. His name is Russ, and he used to run a podcast called Conversations of Coffee, and I had him up in the bunker, and he's a lovely lad, a lad I know a long time, and he's a huge Liverpool fan. And I know on another night he would have been listening in. Maybe he is tonight, I don't know, but and I know some of Sarah's family would have listened in as well. But unfortunately, on Christmas Day, she passed away suddenly due to an issue. And I'm just gonna state now that it's not vaccine related. That it's not. So please don't start with that shit. But I won't go into anything else because personally, it's not really my story to tell. But it's been a tough week, but one thing that I learned is like there's a few people I want to mention now just from around the community. From anyone that doesn't know me, I'm from Drimnagh, Dublin 12, and there's a couple of lads I want to mention. So there's George McKay Fitness, there's Old County Football Club, there's Greg Connolly coaching, there's Anthony Dunnigan from Crumlin. There's football clubs from all over Drimnagh. You have the Bosco, you have Crumlin, you had Bangor, you had James's Gales. They all got together and they set up a GoFundMe. Now I think the lads from the account they shared the story, and they happened to raise nearly close to €50,000 for this girl and her family. She was just 23, so it's no age to go really. But I wanted to use this platform to pat those lads on the back. And one of the lads who really dug it out was Daniel Cleary. He's actually a former alumni of Liverpool. He played there as a young lad, and he's actually just signed to go out to St. Johnstone in Scotland. So all the best to him. And I know Daniel has often listened into the show as well, but it was a real big community effort, and they pulled together. And just in a time, at the time that we're living in at the moment, where it's so easy to be divided depending on what your stance is on certain things, whether it's vaccine statuses or football teams, that it's always better to come together than to be divided. And it's just an unbelievable lift. And I know how great it was to the family and how grateful you are for everyone that pulled together. So a big pat on the back end to anybody involved in the podcast who shared and donated. I can't thank you enough. And it was just a massive thing to me. Keith said earlier about having the stomach for these games. I actually haven't gave too much of a fuck about football for the last week, because it put it all into perspective for me that it means fuck all, lads, and tomorrow's not guaranteed. And just to be nice to each other when you can, and people that are close to you, don't take a second of it for granted, because life is fucked up and things can just change like that. So let's not waste time being bitter or anything like that. And that's all I have to say, Gavin. Thanks very much, Gav, because I know you shared it yourself, and anyone else who shared it. It's been a tough week for me, and thankfully I have good people around me. And it's not even for me, because Ross is one of my mates, and how strong he's been through it all. And I just want to give him a big shout out and just let him know that he's not alone, that the whole community are behind him and the family.
Yeah, it was a terrible, sad thing to learn on Christmas Day. When you let us know, and I remember you doing the podcast with Ross in the studio, and
you won't meet a nicer fella, honestly.
No, I remember you telling me at the time how, like, I didn't know the podcast at the time, and you told me, and you were like, look, this fella is just bang on. If you could probably still go back and still find it, and he's just a terrible nice fella. And you know, it was awful news on Christmas morning, and like we did share it, we made a donation, and you know, to Ross and Sarah's family, if any of them are watching, our commiserations, you know, or our condolences. Sorry, that's the wrong word to use. Our heartfelt condolences, to Ross and Sarah's family on what's a very, very, very sad occasion. And you know, week, 10 days, wherever it is at this stage. And we're all thinking it. And if there's any way myself, Seany, or any of the Daytrippers can support in any way, whether how small or big that might be, absolutely don't.
I've spoke closely to Sarah's uncle, and on New Year's Eve we had a football tournament in Brickfield Park, and the talk is now that this will become an annual thing. Now, there was some really, really good players down. There was some professionals down there, like Jake Mulroney from Atlanta United was down there, and Tyreek Wilson from Bohemians around Ireland. They were all down, and they were playing. And they want this to be an annual thing where we do this every year, and we want all people from all ethnicities, backgrounds, no matter what you are, where you're from, what age you are, they want to do this every year. So coming around this time next year, it will be there, and you will be able to, if you're in and around the Dublin area, you'll be able to throw your name in the hat for this 5-a-side. Look, it's all for a good cause, and the family said this time next year it won't be about money. It's just all about just doing something here in home memory and keeping our spirit alive. And again, Gav, I can't thank you all enough, because you've been a great help.
Yeah, and look, if this is a yearly thing, I can tell you now that this podcast will commit itself to that on a yearly basis in whatever shape or form that we need to commit to, whatever way we're told to commit it. Because we're not the sort of people that row in and go, we'll do this and we'll do that. We don't. We ask, what do you need, and they tell us, and then we try our best. So again, from all of us, you know, we're thinking of Ross, and we're thinking of Sarah and Sarah's family. And we couldn't have left this show tonight, especially with Seany being on and being close enough to that situation without saying something. So yeah,
the efforts of the community have made
it's huge.
National newspapers.
Yeah,
it's made huge. National newspapers, because it's been.
You know, it's a horrible situation, but when you see the good of people, especially in times we're in, because a lot of people are down, a lot of people are, you know, just not themselves because of the way things are in the world for the last, it's verging on 2 years now, in March, won't it be? So yeah, look, Seany's put it absolutely perfectly, and all I can say for myself, Keith, Seany, Kev, and everything else at anyone else at the Daytrippers, that if we can help in any way, today, tomorrow, or in a year's time, or whenever, in the smallest possible, in the smallest way to the biggest way, we will absolutely do our best to do that, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it? We talk and we row about football, but when something like this happens, it puts everything into perspective. It really does. With regards to the rest of the week, we're trying to get back to some sort of normality with a routine because of Christmas and the New Year, and we all drank too much. But I know tomorrow's Monday, so we should have a forum tomorrow. Not too sure on Tuesday. We might have a bit of fun on Tuesday if we can. Wednesday is going to be the midweek fix, and that'll be a preview of the Arsenal game. Thursday we'll be here after the Arsenal game. Where it is Thursday, isn't it, Arsenal? We'll be here afterwards with full-time Reds. Friday the lads should be back with Sports Unplugged, and then we get back into absolute normality. Football in the World, or Man on Football shows, it's known to some people. We will be back next Monday, not tomorrow, next Monday, and we'll be looking to go Monday, Thursday again. Monday will be a bit of fun where we just reminisce about football, and Thursday, as always, we put a bit more research into it, and we try to do something where we research and have a bit of a deeper dive. From tomorrow 2 p.m, you will find me on this channel with the Cop Update show every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday at 2 p.m. Fingers crossed. That's going to be a news update show for around Liverpool, but by all means feel free to come on, give your opinions. We will talk transfers throughout the month of January, and we will talk transfers on all our shows as well as we go at 10 o'clock every night. But if you can, Join me at 2 o'clock tomorrow. I will bring some news around Liverpool to you. We'll talk transfers. We'll talk what we need, what we don't need, how we feel, and stuff like that. We'll have a nice time from 2 to half 2 every weekday from here on in. Kev, anything else before we go?
Nah, mate. Listen, my condolences to Sarah's family and to Ross. Heartbreaking situation. It just gives a bit of reality. It's a reality check for everyone. Like you said, we're all in this together, really. And it's the one thing that this channel that I've known over the last few years has done is if you can help, we will help. And look, today was just a game. Tomorrow we'll wake up and we'll go again.
Okay, absolutely. Keith, anything else before we go?
Just to echo what Kev said, football, it's in the moment it feels like the most important thing in the world, but it's really not. And 23 years old to pass away on Christmas Day, it's no age. And I've been following the story and what's been going on, and it's great to see a community like Drimnagh that in the past has probably had a bit of negative press about it.
Absolutely.
What the people in there do. It's like most inner city or working class areas in many major cities. When the chips are down and the shit hits the wall, it's the working class that gets stuck in and sort of drive the communities on. So, look, it's good for Sarah's family and for our partner and for Seany and anyone else that knew the people or were connected to or the community in general. So, football's important, but it's not that important at the end of the day.
No, it's not. Not when you see things like that happening. And like I said, we come on here to talk. We come on here to have a laugh, try to be balanced, have a laugh for everyone in the chat, take the mick out of each other, and ourselves. We actually just slag ourselves most of the time. But at the end of the day, when you see something like that happen, you kind of sit back and you go, you know what? It's not something to get a podcast or something like that. It's not something to get too upset over, because it doesn't really matter when you see things like that happening in the world. It really doesn't. Seany, you've spoken so well on that. You talk shy about football for the rest of it. But anything else before we go?
It's a welcome distraction, Gavin. Thanks again, everyone. That's all I can say. And just be nice to each other when you can, because nothing is promised. That's all I'll say. That's the last thing I'll say.
I was only messing. You weren't talking to about football. You made some really, really good
Nah,
points.
boy,
I don't want
you know what I
upset
mean.
and all, you know what I mean? All right.
There's enough dickheads in the world.
Right, okay. That has been the Fatback 4 for this Sunday night. Hit the like on your way out. Hit subscribe if you can. Share. Check out the shows coming all week. And as I said, we 5 extra shows a week coming minimum starting tomorrow. That has been it. Talk to you in a bit. Over now.